In this video, I will be explaining what cell referencing is, the different types, as well as how to use them. So if you'd like to be part of the journey of doing it, then go ahead and pause this video, download our practice book from the link below in the description, and then let's get started. There are two types of cell referencing, one being absolute and the other relative. Relative cell referencing. So before we get into that detail, when you refer to any cell within a spreadsheet, you always need to refer to a column and a row. Hence, I call it the L hashtag. So if you want to refer to where high is placed within a spreadsheet, you would say it is in A1. By is in B6. So let's use this example where we will go to cell C2, we'll put in a formula, A1 equals A1. It will take that information from high and place it within C2. When you copy that same cell of C2 and paste it within D7, it will then populate it with the word by. The question is why? Because we look at relative position from the original. C2 relative position to high, or high's relative position to C2 was one cell up and two cells to the left. So if you pasted that same formula down to D7, one cell up, two cells to the left, it retains the same position from the previous one, copying the word by to that. And there you see. So let's get started with an example in the practice book I've provided to get a better hand on this. Okay, so make sure you're on the relative tab, and there we can then look at an example of saying we want to populate the same information that is on the left to the right hand side using the relative referencing. So if I select G3, type in equal sign, and then select James Walker, for example, you'll notice that in the formula bar it says B3. Press enter and it copies James Walker's information. So if I had to select the cell, right click on your button, mouse button, click copy, paste it in email, you would have J Walker because the relative position was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, from email 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is why you will see that fifth position where it was B3, now it is C3. When we talk about relative row, it will remain the same row because we have done the formula within the same row. So another method of doing that, the moment you know that everything will move in the same position, we can just right-click copy and select all the cells you'd like and right-click and paste, and that will take information from the left as needed. So go ahead with example 2 and give it a try. Now that we have a better understanding of relative cell referencing, now let's go over to absolute column referencing. Same format, however, now it has a $sign on the left-hand side of the L. My method of remembering this word, it's looking like an S, so for me, I would always refer to it as stay with. Wherever that $sign is, implies to the formula stay with. So if we have another spreadsheet with the same word high and by being in A1 and one being in B6, let's look at the example. If I place in C2 the formula, instead of just A1, I am indicating now $sign A1. What I am saying is stay with column A, but I'm not speaking to the row, only to the column. So stay with column A, and the 1 remains a relative referencing. Same case, we'll have high going to C2, but when I copy that C2 to D7 as I did before, this time we will have a different case. It will not be taking the word by, but it will be taking the word jam, because now we are not in B6, we are in A6. The rule said stay with column A, but move your relativity of the row number. So in the first case, we had one cell above, two cells to the left. Now the only important relative position is the row. So therefore we have one cell above us, but we will not worry about the distance of how far that cell is from there because the column is fixed. Again, let's get to our practice book and do a few examples. So make sure that you are on the absolute column tab, and then if you'll notice it's the same information as before. However, the columns on the right have been jumbled up. So we want to use our absolute column reference here by ensuring that the same column is referring to the same column. So email is referring to that one. Press enter. However, right now it is a relative cell reference. We want to make sure that it's a column reference, an absolute one. So we'll say a dollar sign in front of the C. And if we had to copy that, Control C, and we had to maybe paste it in telephone, it will not move the same relative position because our columns are fixed. As you can notice, the email is also copied in there, and that is why we need to delete that. So where we can copy this is to say that we know it will move with the row. So if I paste it there, our emails are all correct. Telephone equals sign, choose your telephone, place the dollar sign in there, enter, and then we can again Control C and go down. There are other shortcut ways that we'll get to later, but just to get used to our few shortcut keys, Control C, Control V, equals to, again, name equals that one. Let's put the dollar sign to the left of that, equals. Now I'm going to do the rest on top, and then we can just copy all three columns down. So that equal to postcode. Let's put the dollar sign in front and equals to city and the dollar sign. So when we select all three and we say Control C and we select here, what Excel does is that even though they know that when you select it like this, everything that's above it will come down. The rule, whatever's in that column will come down. The rules in here, the formula will come down, and that one will come down. V. And therefore that is correct. So go ahead, example 2, and test around and play around with that. Well done. So we've got relative cell referencing as well as absolute column referencing down. Let's go to the next one, being absolute row referencing. Again, we have our L hashtag, but now our dollar sign is not on the left-hand side of the column letter. It is in the middle, which is on the left of the hashtag. So again, as we said the word, we said stay with the row. We don't care about the column now. We're saying stay with the row. So let's use as an example again. We have high in A1, buy in B6, jam in A6, and a new word being water in E1. If we place the formula again in C2 as equal to A1, but the dollar sign being next to 1, we are saying that let our column be relative, but let our row be fixed. Stay with row 1. So when we paste it from C2 to G8 in this case, now we will have the word water going in there because what changed was that it was A1 going there, it became E1. The relative position was not dependent on the row number, but the column. So hence the distance being 2 cells from left to right in that case as well. All right, let's get to our example in our practice book. Okay, so here we have the absolute row reference. Just make sure that you've selected the tab below. Then you'll notice that we've got values on the left and a percentages at the top. So if we wanted to work out what is 15% of 80, it will give us an answer and so forth. So before we get straight to row reference, let's use the other two we've done before. If we used the normal relative reference, 80 multiplied by 15%, we'll get an answer, no problem. But if we had to copy that formula to the next one, we will not get what is 45% of 80 because relative to it was one cell to the left. So now it's working out 45% of 12. And that is why we did the column before this. So let's change that. Let's delete that. Let's put in equal signs to 80. Now we put in the column, absolute column as before. And we say that value multiplied by the 50% above. No problem, because of the previous rule we've learned. We copy that. If we paste it now, 45% of 80 is 36. And you'll notice that B3 stays as is thanks to the stay with sign, dollar sign. So let's copy that to the next one. No problem, no problem. But now where the problem comes in is if I want to copy what is 50% of 180 and I use that same formula and I go down, now it is not giving me what is 15% of 150. It is rather taking 150 multiplied by the one value above it. And that is where we are learning now about absolute row reference, where we would say, okay, delete that. Let us put in a dollar sign to the left of the number. So fixed column B3 that will never move, multiplied with C2 at the top. The column can stay the same, but the column can move, but the row needs to stay there. Enter. Now if we copy that, paste, 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 and no problem. You could use the same formula, move it to the right hand side, paste it, still 36, but you'll notice that because we never fixed the column number of the top row, therefore it is moving relatively to the correct row, to the correct column, sorry. So we can now copy that all the way through and we get our answers. So go ahead with example 2 and have some fun getting used to that. Now we're getting to the last of our referencing, this one just being a straight absolute cell reference. And in this case, we are saying stay with the column and the row. Same example as before, we place our formula now being $A, $1, saying stay with column A, stay with row 1. If I copy that from C2 to anywhere else, in this example, I am copying it to G8 as before. In this case, it does not matter where I paste this formula, it will always refer to the content in A1. So let's get started with the example. So just ensure that you have selected the correct tab below, absolute, and then we'll get started on the absolute cell reference. So here we have a few sales employees that made sales. They've all been allocated a different level of commission that they're entitled to, which has a percentage attached to that. So if we just wanted to use cell referencing being absolute, we would say equal to. Now I know level 1 deserves 15%, so I could indicate 15% will got equal to B2. However, I want to make sure that if I copy this formula anywhere else that I want to send it, I want to make sure that it does not move away from the column or the row. So I placed stay with column B, stay with row 2, enter. So if I now control C, copy that, paste it, because I see it's level 1, and then underneath here is level 1 as well. And there we go, 50%. Again with level 2, equal sign, select that one, fix your column, fix your row, enter, and then I can copy that down as well. And that's as easy as that to just get used to it. The most easiest one is always knowing to use absolute cell reference, but then That's not always the case when you have a lot of data points on the left. So that's only when you have one or two fixed values at the top, as we are using as example here. Now, on the right-hand side, to work out the commission value is a simple equal to take 15% multiplied by the sales value achieved, enter, and you get a value. Oh, that's the wrong currency value. Let's not worry about that. There we go. Okay, so it's changed. Let me just change all of them. So if you had to equal sign again, now that was the relative cell referencing, because we know it's not going to change. The position is always one cell to the right, so therefore you can comfortably just use the basic one here. However, if you always want to ensure that there's never a mistake, you can say, okay, make sure that the column is always fixed. The rows should not, because I'm going to go down the rows, multiplied by that one, and his column should also be fixed. Enter, and there we go, going all the way. Sorry, copy, and going down, paste. And there we get our values. Now, the trick I would like to add at the end of having learned this of where to add the dollar sign is now the easy way of changing these cell references without having to constantly go back and do what I've done. Click, put a dollar sign, click. Okay, you'll see dollar sign is the wrong position. So click there. Now, instead of doing that, let's take this away. And the most easiest one is to say equals to, select your cell, then press F4. Now you'll see there's an order of how this is done. If you press F4 for the first time while it's open as is, you'll notice that dollar sign goes on the left of both of the column and row. So that's your first stage. If you click F4 again, it changes to stay with the row. If you click it again, stay with the column. And if you click it again, it takes it away. So that is the easy way of going through your reference options. And now you can actually go and, after you've done this with me, delete it, practice again. So for ease of it, C6, F4, I'll press it 1, 2. I want to fix the column. Multiply, select D, press it again. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Enter. And now I can control C all the way down, paste, and there we go. Same case. So I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, the best way to remember this is to keep on practicing. So let's recap. We've learned about relative cell reference, absolute column reference, absolute row reference, and to bring it together, absolute cell reference. And to easily navigate through these references on a spreadsheet, we would use the F4 function key. So go ahead, use the practice book and practice till it becomes second nature. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to receive updates of new videos coming out, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. I'm in the process of creating an Excel spreadsheet support community on Patreon, and it's intended for all Excel users from beginner to advanced level. Our focus at ESS is to support you on your Excel journey. So let us shape all the benefits to your needs. Take 2 minutes, click the link below, and let us know what it is that you need.